All right, ready? Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our very first Stadium Neighborhood Relations Ad Hoc Subcommittee. We're very excited to be able to be kicking off the first meeting this evening before the holidays. Do appreciate the timing. I know it's a little bit early in the afternoon with the holidays around and trying to schedule this meeting before January. There's very limited time, so we appreciate everyone's availability and attending today's meeting. So I do need to just share that this meeting is hybrid and it is being recorded. And then with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And then we would like to introduce the committee and the staff that's here to help support the committee members. So I will start with Council Member Jane.
Yeah, I'm Councilmember Suds Jane. I was elected 5 years ago, then re-elected in November. And I represent District 5, which is the university area. And I've been asking for this committee for quite some time because the university for over a decade has had the NERC, the Neighborhood University Relations Committee, which has addressed issues with the students, the red solo cups, the parties, all of that. And so I thought that since we have issues around the stadium, we should have a committee similar to that, which is why I've initiated this committee. Thank you.
Council Member Hardy.
Thank you. I represent District 3, but in the 80s, I lived here on Calle de Primavera. And so when we had Measure J coming, I walked precincts and talked to people, and we all had similar concerns, and some of them have come to pass, unfortunately. So that's why I asked to be on this, because I am very aware. I watched them build the 49ers training camp from my window. That's how close I live to that area. Thank you.
And Council Member Gonzalez.
Albert Gonzalez here, District 1 council member, and currently live in this district, so definitely feel a lot of the challenges and opportunities that you face every day as well. So here to listen to your input and gather your thoughts.
And then City Manager Javon Grogan.
Hi, everybody. Javon Grogan, City Manager. I've had the pleasure of being the City Manager of Santa Clara since May of 2023. And so here to support the committee. Many people really don't know what a city manager does. I think it's frankly one of the best jobs that people don't understand, but I'm not elected. I'm appointed by the city council. And my core responsibility is to make sure that the council's policies are implemented to oversee, frankly, all of our departments except the police department and our city attorney. All other department heads report up the chain of command to the city manager. And so it's sort of my job to make sure the trains run on time and oversee the operations in support of the policies that the city council adopts.
And our police chief, Corey Morgan.
Good afternoon, Corey Morgan, Chief of Police. I am the only elected Chief of Police in the state of California, so I am answerable to the people, which gives me a level of independence and autonomy that I appreciate. And I appreciate working with the city manager as a good working partner as we move our city forward. I am the first chief to have any command operational experience at Levi Stadium, and some of which I'll bring to bear during this subcommittee. And I'm interested in sharing that perspective and hearing from you. In the audience, joining me as some members of my Special Operations Division staff, as well as the leader of our community response team, who handles a lot of our quality of life issues in the city of Santa Clara. And I'm also joined by Captain Richard Fitting, commander of the Special Operations Division, that, among other things, runs special events in the city of Santa Clara and handle Levi Stadium.
I'd also like to introduce Amy Escobar. She's with the city manager's office and will be assisting us with the subcommittee. I'd also like to turn it over to the committee members and do introductions of our, thank you, myself. Paulina Morales, Assistant City Manager, and here to assist with bringing the Stadium Ad Hoc Subcommittee together, and looking forward to getting to know some of you. And with that, I'll turn it over to this lady in the front. If you can share your name and I'm sorry, we're going to need to make sure you guys use the microphone. So, thank you, Patricia. It is a hybrid. We need to make sure that everyone uses a.
To repeat myself again?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm Helen Narciso and I live in the Ferry Glen neighborhood, which is closest to the stadium. And I've been in the same neighborhood since 1978. And I have witnessed and experienced all the issues in that neighborhood during events and games at the stadium. So I'm really concerned about things that are happening there and looking forward to some solutions or mitigations to resolve our issues.
Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Lee. I walked the streets with Karen Hardy when Measure J was being passed. My two kids went to public school here, Laurelwood and Peterson, and we rode the exact plot that the stadium is on with our bikes, and we supported Measure J. And I actually disagree. We're Mission Park are actually the closest neighborhood and most impacted by Levi Stadium. I happen to also work at Levi Stadium. I used to run the holding cell for Santa Clara PD and the Sheriff's Office. And so I have two hands that I'm juggling, and that is the revenue and the great benefits to the city that the stadium brings. But I live in the closest neighborhood that is impacted by the parking that is rampant, that is taking away city revenue, the ride share that is stopping in the middle of the streets at the corner of Wilcox and Gianera. Thanks to Officer Ortigo and his staff, we're working together for signage and for different things that I'll talk further about that later. But I have some ideas. I'm not here just to complain. I have some solutions, and I also want to hear some ideas. I think our City Councilman Albert Gonzalez is a great addition to our district, and I look forward to hearing more about some ideas that we could partner to mitigate the no parking, the littering, the ride share, the things that go on in our neighborhood right in the Wilcox Gianera area. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, if you can share it with the person behind you.
Hello, my name is Hugh Lee, and I'm an HOA board member at Mission Park. And I'm here to listen to all your information and share with my homeowners at Mission Park. And I would like for us to all be able to collaborate and help each other to make all of these events a better place.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ken Smythe. I'm a resident of the Rancho de la Cruz area on the other side of Montague. And I've been a resident here myself since 1997. So I'm kind of familiar with the traffic flow and how it impacts not just the people immediately in the stadium vicinity, but people who are kind of a half mile to a mile away going to and from work. And also used to live down just on the other side of 101, or used to work down on the other side of 101 from the stadium. So some familiarity there. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm in the Lickmill Park neighborhood. I have a couple of questions I'm hoping to get answered today.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm a new resident to the area and live quite close to Oracle Park, and I'm looking forward to learn more about the community and the neighborhood.
Hi, my name is Kevin Manley. I live in the in your old neighborhood, Karen, my Calle de Primavera. I wasn't in favor of I was a Santa Clara resident. I actually lived on the opposite side of the stadium than I do now when it was on the ballot. I remember attending a forum somewhat like this with Steve Lodge, where he talked about those safeguards that were going to be put in place to protect the neighborhoods. And I've seen those safeguards kind of, for probably good reasons, kind of fall away. I think many of us here probably have a Santa Clara sticker on our car, but that doesn't really have an impact anymore. And I think for me, I didn't vote in favor of the stadium. But I think once the stadium's built, we put a lot of money into it and we need to see the economic benefit. And I think for me, like, I don't like staying up late at night, but if we have to have events that run late, I get it. I'd really like to see the impact on our neighborhood minimized, not from a sound level, but just from people in the neighborhood and the ramifications that come from people coming back after an event. So thank you for setting this up. I appreciate it.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Crave, a resident at Rivermark since before the stadium was built. And I was initially opposed to the stadium more because of the things that have happened in terms of the impact on city government and the apparent corruption within the city council. But the impact of the events themselves, I think Rivermark has been very fortunate. We appear to be on the leeward side of the stadium and are not seeing the amount of traffic, foot traffic or auto traffic that we anticipated seeing.
Good afternoon. My name's Wing Tang. I am a resident of Mission Park since 1998. When they first pitched the stadium idea to us, they told us that parking will be restricted and that police will guard all the entrance, check for address and things like that. And of course, the police nowadays, they just sit there and they said that the parking is, of course, legal to park. So feel like there's a bait and switch, but it is what it is. So I'm here to see what can we improve upon. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Debbie Algieri, and I live in Mission Park. I am the Homeowners Association Board President. I have lived in Mission Park since the homes were built and been the president for the majority of those years. I have expressed concerns over the years about issues within Mission Park as it relates to the stadium. And in many ways, I feel like those things have not been answered by the city council. And I think that it's really high time that we come together and we resolve these issues so that people in my community can live day to day and have a place to park day to day without these events going on. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Leah Theologides Mukar. I'm a resident of Rivermark here, original homeowner since 2005. I am most interested in understanding the benefits, the financial benefits of these events to the city of Santa Clara. I'm not sure that we're actually making any money off of them. It's just very confusing to me. So I'd like to better understand that and just the financial benefit of the stadium in general. And also sort of how we go about negotiating these deals. And, I would hope that we're being tough negotiators and putting the city of Santa Clara first and really trying to push hard against all these very fancy entities of the NFL and FIFA. I mean, they've got fancy lawyers in New York and probably the best in the world. So I just want to make sure we're being tough and protecting our interests and really getting what we should get out of it for the city and for the residents.
Hi, my name is Maria Mukar. I was born and raised in Rivermark, so Rivermark's the only home I know, and I grew up playing at the Santa Clara Youth Soccer Park. I have played soccer since I was little and now play collegiate soccer, and so I think I'm most concerned about thinking about current players and the future generations of youth soccer in the Bay Area, and especially in Santa Clara, and the effect that the stadium has, because I remember when the first Super Bowl was hosted, Super Bowl 50 in 2016, and the effect that that had on the soccer park and not getting an additional field complex built and not getting them refurbished to the standard that we were promised. And so I'm thinking ahead to the future of these two big events, and one being soccer focused and how that's going to affect the soccer park.
Kathy Watanabe, former city council member for District 1. And everybody knows how much I care about District 1, and I still do. So that's why I'm here today. Thank you.
Rick Andrews, from Lake Santa Clara Homeowners Association. It's on Agnew Road. So our concern is the parking on Agnew Road, the trash that's left on Agnew Road, the partying that happens on Agnew Road. At every event that comes, whether it be a concert, whether it be a Niner game, whatever it is. So I'm looking for mitigation to how we solve that. I mean, we're a prisoner of our home every Sunday. that the Niners play or every concert. We can't move. We move our parking space, it's gone, somebody else takes it. So just looking for answers is all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Denise Yee. I'm a resident of Rivermark and have lived in Rivermark since before the stadium was built. Just interested to hear what my fellow neighbors and community have to say about the stadium. I am concerned about the Super Bowl and FIFA World Cup being hosted at Levi Stadium and how it'll impact our neighborhood. Similar concerns around the littering, the partying, the parking, everything that everyone has said. So thank you.
Just a few over here, so I'm going to hold on to this so she.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm with the 49ers and the public affairs team. I'll be here in listening mode today. We're really excited that this group is coming together, especially with city staff and our Santa Clara Police Department, so we can all be on the same page and hear from the community. So I just started a few months ago, I'll be quite honest. So I'm still ramping up myself. So if I don't know something, it doesn't mean that, we don't have an answer. That's why I'm going to be trying to take as much back to the team to make sure we can get you the right information when we work with city staff on the follow-up.
Elijah Lefko, also here with Public Affairs for the Niners. Here to listen. Thanks for being here and really want to address these concerns.
Hi, my name is Roger. I live in the Primavera complex, and I just kind of reiterating what I've already heard. Tom mentioned that we had these stickers 10 years ago, which really don't have any impact. And I have the letter here, and it says that parking is allowed, but they're supposed to restrict access in certain checkpoints. And as another gentleman said, I haven't necessarily seen the police do this, but I've seen people with yellow vests not even check the cars when they're going past. And to me, why did we have this in the first place?
Hi, my name is Pradeep. I live off of Agnew, just on the other side of the Lafayette. I think the issues, many people have already brought them up, parking, traffic. So just like to hear what the solutions for those are going to be.
I'm Will Choi. I live in the Primavera neighborhood as well. No disagreement with anything I've heard so far. The one thing I do want to also stress is comparing the 49er games to other events. At the 49er games, at least we see more of a presence to try to restrict parking. The other events are even worse.
Hi, Bernard Tenzi. I live on Lakeshore in Agnew, so right there by the stadium. I also own a auto repair shop just behind us on De La Cruz and Aldo. And I serve on the Silicon Valley Chamber and also with the Charter Review Committee. I was speaking with District 1 Albert Gonzalez, and I was honored to host him at our shop a couple of days ago. And we had a great conversation about not just the stadium, parking, and the city of Santa Clara in general. And he suggested that I stop by today. It was going to be a great conversation. So I'm excited and thank you for the invite.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My parents were original owners of a residence on Calle de Primavera. I recently lost my parents and I've inherited that house. So now I've moved back in and I think I'm concerned about the past decade of influence of this stadium. Again, as I've heard mentioned that the 49ers doing a tremendous job along with the Santa Clara Police Department of engaging with us during the 49er games, but there are times when I see other events or activities that are certainly impacting the residents of Calle de Primavera and the Fairway Glen Park. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hazel Olivato. I'm born and raised in Santa Clara in the Fairway Glen neighborhood. Been given feedback about the stadium for nearly 10 years. So I'm really here today because I want to see action, finally taking on the feedback that has been given to the neighborhoods and the businesses that have been impacted by the stadium. Thank you.
Christine Jung, Deputy City Manager in the City Manager's Office, here to listen and support the city team.
Afsha Hamid, Director of Community Development. I work with the City of Santa Clara, and I'm here to listen to all of you and to support the city in any way possible. Thank you.
Hi, RJ Otico. I'm a sergeant that oversees our community response team that deals with quality of life issues. And I'm also in charge of our neighborhood protection detail during stadium events.
Good afternoon, Max Nielepko. I work in special operations under Captain Richard Fitting, and I run the exterior of the stadium on event days.
Hi, Lieutenant Eric Enos. I operate under Captain Fitting as Deputy Incident Commander. If you ever call the community line during an event, I'll be the one that answers and sends officers to respond to whatever the issue is. Thank you.
Thank you. And Rich, can we have you do a quick intro?
Richard Fitting, City of Santa Clara Police Department. It's been said, I oversee special operations on event days. I'm the incident commander over our public safety deployment. I will say this interesting fact, from 2002 to 2006, I was in our community response team as the officer when we opened the Northside substation. So I was housed out of there. I've met probably several of you over the course of years, but it's great to be back on the North Side. Looking forward to this engagement. This is outstanding to have this many people here for us to listen to you. My team is excited.
So I just want to thank everybody for their candor. We don't normally start our community meetings like this, but I think it was really good to hear the concerns, really to set the table for the conversations that we're going to have. I'll turn it back over to Paulina, and we're going to get the formal part of the presentation and today's meeting started.
Thank you, Javon. So next would be the consent calendar, but being this is the first meeting, there's no consent items. Next, we have public presentation. So if there's anything else that you guys would like to come up and share, it's usually reserved for something that's not on the agenda item, and which is the Stadium Neighborhood Relations Ad Hoc Subcommittee orientation. So if there's anyone in the audience that would like to say a little bit more, or if there's anyone online, Amy, no?
And there'll be time for additional public comment after the primary discussion item.
Okay, thank you. And we'll get started with the presentation. So the agenda for tonight includes the purpose of what the Stadium Ad Hoc Subcommittee is here for, and the duration of the Stadium Ad Hoc Committee. We're going to be doing a little bit of a survey just to get some initial feedback from this group. We're going to be going into annual operations, current outreach efforts, and data collected, and that'll be presented by Chief Coy Morgan. We'll also be providing some information on Super Bowl LX as we are meeting in December. Super Bowl's coming up very quickly in February. I believe we're 8 weeks out from Super Bowl. So we wanted to give you guys some information that pertains to the impacts to the neighborhood and the surrounding areas. Lastly, how to stay informed, and then some next steps for the committee. This ad hoc committee will serve as a temporary forum for focused two-way communication with residents and businesses impacted by stadium events. During its limited duration, the committee will provide updates on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity of hosting these two global events in 2026. So not only Super Bowl, but there's going to be impacts with FIFA World Cup coming in June to July. And it'll create space for stakeholders, not only the residents, but in the businesses that are going to be impacted, to provide feedback on current outreach communication efforts. Input gathered through this process will help identify areas to strengthen and improve and enhance how city communicates with the stakeholders before, during, and after stadium events. I wanted to share with you, this is the map for the boundaries. So I saw some of you carrying the postcard that we mailed out. This is the area that those postcards went out to. So as I mentioned, the stakeholders include businesses in the area and residents, everything north of 101 freeway, that's within Santa Clara boundaries. Okay, and I'm going to transition into the survey. So if you guys have phones, the next part is going to be using your phones for the survey. Okay, thank you. So if you can scan that QR code, it'll populate on your phone, and then it's an open-ended answer that you can put in. So what is the biggest challenge or issue you experience related to stadium events? So what is the biggest issue or concern that you guys face? I think we heard parking is one of them, being a prisoner in your house, or you can't get out. So I'll put it open, and then I'm going to stop. Does everyone have it? Does anyone need help? Okay. 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 You didn't get it? Does anyone need help? Just raise your hand and I'll come help. We also have a handwritten or hard copy. You guys prefer to do it. Looks like I think we got everyone. If there's anyone, a couple more coming in. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next question. Is anyone else? Oh, okay, we're two people.
I read in the letter that they said that once they gain access, you're allowed to park on public streets. So it's not necessarily public.
Can we get a microphone? Sorry.
Well, it's remote access.
Okay.
The key checkpoints, and why are people getting through the checkpoints if we have stickers supposedly?
Okay. Thank you. All right, so it looks like parking, littering, traffic are the biggest ones, their biggest concerns. Thank you. And we're going to go to the next question. How do you typically receive information about stadium events today? I know that there's various forms of communication that is done for stadium events. Perfect. Okay. So it looks like it was a competition between social media and emails that you guys have signed up for subscriptions to get updates. So thank you. And then the last survey question is, what aspects of communication or outreach for stadium events are working well? Huh? Oh, sorry. Oh, oh no, that's Amy. That's not me. Amy. Thank you. So while the last person is typing in their response, I have a question. Notification of street closures. Are you talking about like the signs that are on the actual like Great America Parkway that indicate the closures? Okay, thank you. A-frames, thank you. All right. Thank you guys for the participating in the survey, and we'll go back to the presentation. So part of the annual operations for the for Levi Stadium, there are approximately 9 to 12 games a year with 8 to 10 non-NFL events a year. And these events include concerts, other sporting events like Super Bowl 50 or Copa America soccer matches, and concerts by top artists such as Taylor Swift and Beyonce that had concerts here in Santa Clara. They also include private events. There's smaller scale events that are held within the stadium, and those are approximately 50 to 70 a year. And those are much, like I said, mentioned, smaller in scale. Since it's been in operation, the City of Santa Clara and the Niners Management Company, LLC or Manco, have established outreach and communication programs to address impacts to the neighborhoods and surrounding stadium. I will turn it over now to Chief Corey Morgan, and I believe the city manager would like to say something.
Yeah. Just want to give a quick overview because some of you from your intros I know have been around for a long time, but everyone may not know the structure that Levi Stadium operates under. So it's important to note that the city owns the land, and then the city created another legal entity called the Santa Clara Stadium Authority, of which the city council serves as the board, and the city manager serves as the executive director. The Stadium Authority owns the building, and then the Stadium Authority in turn leases out the building to the 49ers for 6 months out of the year, and that's when during the NFL season. And then for the other 6 months out of the year, the Stadium Authority puts on non-NFL events. Now we do that through our management company, and when Levi Stadium was first built and the documents were negotiated, a special purpose entity by the 49ers was set up called, we generally refer to it as Manco, but it's essentially Stadium Management Company. That Stadium Management Company manages the building 12 months out of the year, 6 months on behalf of the 49ers, 6 months on behalf of the Stadium Authority. And so all of those non-NFL events are, they're under that period that is outside of the NFL season. And given some of the initial comments, it's very clear to me that a few people asked for wanting to have a deeper understanding of the financial mechanics of the Stadium Authority and how it benefits the city. And so at our next meeting, we'll prepare for that to be an agenda topic, and we'll come in with a total presentation to articulate that. But with that, I'll turn it over to the police chief.
And this has been great so far. Nothing that I've heard out of the audience has surprised me at all. This is our 12th year of operations at Levi Stadium. So my hope for this subcommittee is that this is an action-oriented committee that we can actually bring real solutions forward, less so than a listening and communication module. I think we could bring real and lasting solutions moving forward. So that's my hope for this subcommittee. Paulina, are you able to pull up my slides? And you can jump to the next slide. Perfect. So that is just essentially a summary of, we've been doing this for 12 years. We have 12 years of experience. Every year we are hopefully getting better, definitely on an operational side. And now we're to the point where we can take the known issues that we have surrounding the stadium, and like I said, make the changes that we need to make some improvement. Next slide, please. I wanted to start with some actual framework and a little bit of perspective on what a major deployment is for us at the stadium. And that involves what you see on the screen. We start with public safety. That's our first goal. We want to prevent or disrupt a targeted attack at the stadium. We're worried about crowd management, we're worried about crime deterrence, and obviously emergency response. We're worried about mobility, traffic control, how people are getting in and out. It's no small feat to bring in 70,000 people into that location in a 3 to 4 hour period and get them in and out. So that's a major focus of ours, ingress and egress management. And then what we're hearing today is the neighborhood impacts. That's obviously on our plate as well. The parking spillover, the noise, the littering, intoxication, and other quality of life issues that you will see throughout my slide. I abbreviated that by QOL. So you'll see that on my slides a few times because I know it's coming. And then obviously all of this takes coordination. This is really a regional effort. We employ more people on a stadium event day than I have employed at the Santa Clara Police Department. So this is a lift that's bigger than the Santa Clara Police Department. It's really a regional effort. And when it comes to the major events, it's a local, state, and federal effort to have safe events. We'll go to the next slide. We're going to talk some acronyms here. I think it's important for everyone to know that we operate under the National Incident Management System, that's NIMS. And that's a nationwide framework for managing emergencies and planned events. And it standardizes how agencies communicate, coordinate, and operate during incidents of any size or complexity. SCPD is fully NIMS compliant, meaning that we follow nationally recognized best practices for command, control, and resource management. And we manage every stadium event, NFL, concerts, international soccer, whatever it may be, using the same structure the nation uses for disasters. And this consistency means that whether it's a routine game or Super Bowl 60, the operational framework stays the same. It ensures a unified approach when multiple agencies are involved. The Incident Command System, or ICS, is how NIMS is operationalized on the ground. ICS provides a clear chain of command, defined responsibilities, and a common operating picture. And every position has a standardized role and accountability. This prevents duplication of effort, span of control issues, and communication failures. Every stadium event is formally managed under ICS. We activate a command post, assign section chiefs, and maintain unified command and communication channels. The other thing about ICS is that it's scalable. So the same structure works for a preseason game or a global event like the Super Bowl or World Cup. And what you see on the screen is our current command structure for ICS. We mentioned Captain Fitting as the incident commander. Our 4 major subcommittees are our exterior chief, who's here today, our interior chief, THF stands for temporary holding facility, which we have some experience in the room on. And then our intelligence section is led by Sergeant Brian Williams. Next slide, please. We have robust checks and balances of our deployment. Internally, we lead after action reviews and we look to get better every event as best we can. We had a comprehensive external audit conducted to make sure that we're aligned with best practices nationally. And of course, a checks and balance that's always hanging overhead for every contract that we do, stadium related or not a normal pedestrian contract on the street, is civil litigation. And we've been sued for one over the stadium costs, which we now have settled. But we also get sued if there are incidents that happen at the stadium under our watch. We had a terrible incident where a man was assaulted. He was a victim of felony battery. And the family sued us for our response as a city. After the discovery, when we laid out what our deployment plan is and how we carry out that NIMS and ICS structure that I talked about, the plaintiff removed us as a defendant because they recognized, they said, hey, there was nothing the police department could have done or they could have done better than what they do and are doing every event day. So they removed us as a defendant. Everything is routed through our finance department. And we know that our city council is very actively engaged in what our deployments look like on a day-to-day basis. Next slide, please. So I mentioned I have some command operational experience. That's actually a picture of me talking on the 2280 extension from the command post, the one that Lieutenant Enos now manages. I supervised 49 major events as the deputy incident commander. And I won't call them out by name, but I spoke to several people in the room a few times on the phone. And I do want to point out, I'm on the phone there. You'll notice in the background, I have 2 cell phones and a second radio that I'm juggling. So those events are very dynamic experiences. And we see that there's a lot going on. I mentioned all the things that we're covering. But what the deputy incident commander oversees is the operations of the event. And he supervises directly the interior chief and the exterior chief in the manner that I described earlier. And he can direct resources to an issue if we can. And sometimes the answer might be, hey, unfortunately, I don't have any personnel that I can direct to your problem. And all of those are documented in an after action for future improvement. Next slide, please. All of this is included in a post-event summary that we send to key city staff that gets forwarded to council. And as a part of that, we summarize the calls that we received on the 2280 hotline, not only the number that we get, but the nature of the complaint that was received. Next slide, please. We pulled data from 2021. The 2280 line was initiated in 2019. And I want to say that's a unique, no other NFL team has that, where you can get the deputy incident commander directly on the line in order to request resources or highlight a problem. So we started that in 2019. I have data from 2021 to 2025 that covered 81 events. Of those 81 events, we received 97 total calls over that time period. And you can see the breakdown as depicted. The biggest complaint was noise complaints with 33 direct calls on the noise, 24 calls regarding illegal vending, 19 parking, and then 21 in a miscellaneous categories that were kind of hard to identify. I broke out some of them on the screen there. Public urination, we had 2 calls on those line during that time period, and they cover everything from public intoxication to littering, lost persons or welfare checks, and then other isolated issues that we received calls on. Next slide, please. What has not changed since we opened the stadium is really the infrastructure. The roadway network and neighborhood street grid remain essentially the same as when the stadium opened. So we're dealing with a new problems necessarily with the same geography. And I heard, and I know the stickers have been brought up a couple of times, and I want to address the stickers. So I think the stickers really were really a well-intentioned effort to limit negative impacts on our residential community. However, the authority for enforcement was never codified by either the council or moved through the neighborhoods through the RPP process. So really there's no legal authority for us to enforce those stickers. And they essentially revert back to those are public streets, public roadways, and the police do not have the ability to limit access or restrict access to public roadways or restrict parking. So that's the issue that we're left with as far as the parking and the stickers. Sir, go ahead.
Strict access to these checkpoints.
Correct.
Sorry, if I could make sure you guys have used the microphone so that the people online can hear. Thank you. Patricia's coming with the microphone.
So I'd like to know then how we can get away with having parades in our within our communities, but yet we can't restrict parking at Levi Stadium in our community.
We certainly can restrict the parking. It has to be codified though. There's a street closure permit for parades that is obtained in order to close the street. But yeah, no, don't get me wrong. We absolutely can restrict parking, just as like a downtown Los Gatos does. You can't park anywhere in Los Gatos off of the two major strips. So that would have to be a codified change by either the council or through the community-led process where traffic engineering, you need to vote and you need 50% plus one, the process which I think you're familiar with.
So Corey, you know that I've been very vocal about this in the past and I'm still going to be vocal with it. You know, why has the city council, you're all sitting there, why have you guys done nothing about this?
Okay. So let me just, I have a couple more slides to wrap up and then.
Sure, and then I think the RPP, the Residential Parking Permit Program, is a vehicle to limit parking to residents only. It's a conversation that we should have. I think we should start that conversation today. And at our subsequent meeting, talk about it more. And so
we can talk about it more, but it tells me that this group is not in touch with what's been going on, at least in the Mission Park area, because we've already tried to address the residential parking.
Right. And one of the things the city has had a residential parking program that requires 50 plus one. So 50% of the residents plus one need to elect a residential parking program. The city council can unilaterally implement a residential parking program. This city and many cities have not done that. We can talk about that because that comes with certain limitations for residents in your ability to use the street in front of your house. And so most cities have it be an election. And so for the last 12 years, I know that there has been several attempts by residents to get the votes and it's never crossed over that threshold. We can look at taking a different approach, which is a forced residential parking program. It has certain impacts and potentially even certain property value impacts depending on how it's structured. So it's worth talking about, but I don't want to interrupt the chief's conversation, but I certainly know that that will be a focus of this committee. And should there not be enough votes and it's unilaterally implemented, that is something that certainly can be discussed.
Yes. I think this perfectly cues up my next slide, which we understand parking is the main driver of these quality of life issues and all of the secondary and tertiary effects that come from those. If somebody's not parked there, they're not going to litter there. They're not going to urinate there. They're not going to cause noise in your neighborhood or take your parking spot in front of your house. So that's how I view the most effective thing that we could do to affect these quality of life issues is restrict access. And I just want to clarify, we as a police department can't restrict access without the authority granted by either council or the student-led thing. So as it stands now, the police department, it would be, in my opinion, a relatively egregious Fourth Amendment violation to stop somebody without reasonable suspicion entering a neighborhood and ask them essentially for papers to prove that they live there without reasonable suspicion. So that's the hurdle that we face as a police department. Okay, well, I never made that promise. I'm here looking forward. I haven't even been the chief for a single year. But as I'm telling you, the avenue for us to do it as a police department is to have that residential permitted parking plan in place.
I appreciate that. Yep. I appreciate the response there and understand we have civil liberties and I'm appreciative of that. And I recognize that you're put in a tough spot. I think one piece of feedback from me for the group here, the council that's up in the front. There were people 10 years ago that made promises. They wrote checks that did not cash. And I think you're seeing here, I mean, I'm glad you had this slide because for me, it was like, hey, if you can get rid of parking, I know there's been a lot more public urination than the 2 complaints you've gotten in the past couple of years because I've seen way more of that. It would solve a lot of problems. And my recommendation is we've tried a lot of things that haven't worked. And, we haven't been able to get some of the parking measures through. I'm excited to hear that the city council could take some action. And I really hope for this group, people made promises 10 years ago that aren't in effect. And I know for me, like I've had, and I appreciate for the members here, Mr. Fitting, thank you so much for having people, having the highway patrol and others that are out there, because even though they can't enforce that sticker, and I've had a new car the past couple years, I haven't even put the sticker on because it doesn't matter, but just having that presence there, it's a big impact into who invades the neighborhood. So I appreciate I know it's extra cost, extra work. Thank you. I think it'd be fantastic to actually see our representatives actually do something about this, because I think that realistically, we're a bunch of people that have jobs, we have other commitments, and are we going to be able to get 50% plus one? Well, you yourself said that didn't happen. And I think that if the city council could take action, don't be someone that 5 years from now, we're in a meeting and we're like, we're still dealing with the same problem. Let's actually see some action. And I think there's been several comments about this being an action-oriented meeting, which I'm appreciative of. And it seems like there's a mechanism for the council to do something about this.
So I just want to make a note while we're still looking at this. The process for doing permit parking is not correct. And I know the city just went through and revamped that. The problem is more people would be obliged to go with that process if it fit where they lived. So for instance, in Mission Park, we have motor courts. We do not have driveways to park in, and a limit of 2 stickers per home just doesn't work in that environment. But that's the process the city recently came up with. So I think we need to go back and look at that whole process again and say, really, what makes sense? It may be driven more by who lives in the house. Is the car registered in Santa Clara to that resident? Not so much just give them stickers. It needs to be more in-depth in looking at the type of communities we now live in. Because we don't live in homes that have two cars you can park on your private property in front of your garage. That doesn't exist in Mission Park for the most part. So that's my comment.
And I think that the technology has advanced to the point where we don't even, it's automated. Right. There's license plate readers. We can issue citations. People can register their vehicles. So I think all of that is reasonable and doable. I have two more slides to close on there. I think they're relatively quick. Next slide. Noise was also a complaint. We see most noise trends are driven by concerts and not the NFL games. You see the breakdown: concert PA amplified music, acts that have a high amount of bass or low frequency noise is a frequent complaint, and then loud music within the neighborhoods. Again, going back to that parking issue, it drives it. We did get one complaint on aircraft noise. I'm not going to make any promises on what I can do about that. Next slide, please. And that's basically a summation of what we've talked about. The most effective solutions do require policy authority from the council, and that gets to that core issue of the parking. We need a legal authority to enforce. And if parking is restricted in the neighborhoods, then the police department absolutely can and will enforce parking in the neighborhoods. I think I mentioned on the outside, I do hope that this committee operates in kind of a rolling fashion, that we can give rolling recommendations to the council and not have to wait until August of 26 to make these recommendations. I think it's something that we can move on now. And with that wraps up a summary of essentially the core issues of what we're seeing at the stadium and kind of the police response and position.
So I just have 2 things. One is I don't like the parking as well, but I'm also aware of the unintended consequences of permit parking in neighborhoods. So I'm not sure if that's a great solution to have the city council force it upon neighborhoods that may not want it. So I still think like having the neighborhood vote on it is probably the best way to go. It'd be great if somebody invented a third solution, maybe the stickers held weight for game days or something and didn't really mean anything on any other day of the week. So I think it would have to be a third solution outside of residential permit parking. The other question, I just have a question. I don't know if you're going to get to this. I remember I had it at one point. Is there a hotline for non-event days, like when the team's practicing? Because I did call them at one point because the players sometimes get a hold of the PA system and crank up the volume. Oh, and crank up the volume like way beyond what is normal for even an event day. So is there a hotline for those days?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that. I actually had that in my notes. I didn't bring up those complaints were around event day, and I know there's frustrations around practice event, not only with the noise of the music, but the vulgarity associated. I want to touch real quick on your first point about absolutely within the residential permit parking program, you can restrict it to certain days. So you could tie it to event days. It doesn't have to be a blanket 365 prohibition. So you could frame it, and the council could frame it around event days and even have dynamic pricing associated to the events. Because obviously it's about incentivizing behavior. And if it's cheaper, even through fine, to park in the neighborhoods, people are going to do that. So you have to look at what the parking costs are at the venue and compare that to what the fine is going to be. So absolutely, you can have a specified day permit plan.
I don't quite understand. Is the RPP that you're discussing a physical decal or an electronic way? Because I remember on the August night out, Mr. City Manager, you mentioned something about that, but I don't quite remember the details of it. So can you please elaborate on that one?
Sure. All right. So let
me get it.
Why don't you talk about what we do now, and then I will then elaborate on the possibilities for the future and talk about the nuances of RPP elected versus mandatory. So talk about our current process, and then I'll take it from there.
Yeah, and real quick, so the technology has advanced. You can have an online registration, doesn't have to be permanent associated. There would have to be proper posting and noticing in the area to enforce. I mean, any kind of parking thing has to be, you have to be able to know what you're getting into. The current process, I'm not sure where you want me to go with that, City Manager.
Oh, sure. So current process is a physical pass. Classic RPP that I think about, having worked across many cities in the Bay Area, is you think of communities next to a BART station oftentimes will elect to put in a residential parking program because you really want to prevent outsiders from parking in your community, right? And it could be active on weekdays or only on weekends, et cetera. I think we have some around the university. Problem with sort of the old way of doing it, it was a very manual system. You have to register your car. You have to submit certain information to verify that you live there, provide information on your car. You get a placard, whether that's a window sticker or a bumper sticker. And then if you have a guest, you then need to register those guests. And even our current program, and I'm looking on our website right now, requires, it is a neighborhood elected program, so 50% plus one. You need a current utility bill, deed of trust, or a lease agreement to prove that you reside at that house. And then you get a maximum of 2 parking permits per address that are valid for the year, and a maximum of 2 visitor permits are allowed per the address at any given time. It is a very, very restrictive program, right? There is another model that we are looking to employ. And honestly, I think that's the only way, whether it's elected or mandatory, that it will really work in this setting. And that is to have a very user-friendly, efficient way for people to register and have it be LPR-based, so license plate reader. Um, It is a question of, do you limit the number of parking permits? Do you charge for parking permits? Some cities say, you know what, if you want a parking permit, it's $40 per. And communities that do that have an impacted parking problem. Oftentimes you see that in communities along 101 where there's just not enough parking. And they say, even if we let everyone that lives here that owns a car park, there's not enough parking. So you charge a fee for that, and you try and get people to clean out their garage or park in their driveway, right? That's not the problem we're talking about here. What we're talking about is a residential parking program that would limit or albeit eliminate outsiders parking in the community. That very likely probably needs to be a program where there is not a fee, where you don't restrict the number of parking permits that a resident can have. And it also needs to be very user friendly, where you can go on a website, you can register yourself. If you're having a party on an event day and you're having a 49ers party at your house because they're playing and you want to register your guests, you can register your guests, right? We do not have that system right now. We currently have an active RFP, request for proposals, that was put out a little while ago. I don't know what month, I'm sorry. And that is connected to our paid parking initiative. We're looking at doing paid parking at the convention center garage and potentially downtown. As a part of those systems, the new systems, just like if you go and pay at a parking meter, they all have an app. You register on the app, you put in your information, and you put in your license plate, and that will allow us to do very efficient LPR license plate reader technology. Now, we could set all of that up, and then you could still have 50% plus one electing not to do it, right? And it's a policy conversation of, does the city council, if we have a new model, right, desire to do it unilaterally and impose it. It is restrictive, right? It's less restrictive than your classic program that will essentially make a public street private and say only people that have these 2 permits per house can live there. And in fact, when cities implement those, you cannot choose, well, a single family house that doesn't get a driveway gets 3 permits, but this single family house that has a driveway and a garage, they only get 1 permit. Or that apartment complex where you only get 1 parking space gets 2 parking permits, but that single family house gets 3. It has to be uniform for all dwelling units, and you can't discriminate based on dwelling unit type if you're going to limit the number of parking spaces. We potentially could implement a system where we're not limiting the number of spaces and we're not charging. Lastly, I would say a system like that could potentially be ripe for abuse, right? If you lived in that neighborhood and you had a very user friendly system, you could potentially sell passes and make a little business out of it. Now we would have data and we could track that and clamp down when we see that. But essentially that's where we are. Historically, Santa Clara has ran a very standard residential parking permit program that is elected. We are now, through our RFP process, acquiring the technology to have a more user-friendly system. And then we can have those discussions, and I certainly know that this committee will have those discussions around what that new system will look like. Will it be a opt-in or will it be a mandatory system? And it's a very difficult policy decision. And certainly if it's mandatory, I think most communities would say, I'd really like a survey of the community, because if 10% want something, but 90% don't, should you really make it unilateral? Or if you're like really on the cusp, right, et cetera. And so it's a discussion that we should have. Why people were promised something 10 years ago and provided passes, I know the police chief is exactly right. Without additional policy, we could not right now go and say, you can't park here, which is.
Quantify it. What would you quantify? Why can't you do it now?
Yeah, codify. So yeah, put into law essentially. So yeah, the council, the historical council never made the mandatory program. And then also we have had And I've been engaged with some of those conversations to do the resident-driven parking plan that needs the 50% plus one that failed. Frankly, it didn't meet the threshold to get put into place.
Okay. I thought you had your hand up, but should we go back to you? Okay, fair. I just wanted to recognize you.
So I just want further clarification. So the RPP is the short-term solution that you guys can offer if we get 50 plus one, correct? And then the new technology will be the long-term solution. Did I get that right?
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
No. RPP, whether it's the current version or a modified version, RPP stands for Residential Parking Program.
Yes.
That can very well be a permanent solution. Right now, we do not have the data and the technology. We will in 2026 complete our RFP process, select a vendor, and have a very user-friendly model that either the community may elect or the council may impose unilaterally. And I would say most people would agree right now. I'm sorry, I would think most people would agree right now. The current policy that we have probably should not be unilaterally imposed, given the restrictions and sort of the clunkiness of it. But once we have a new system, it does provide that opportunity. But again, it's a significant policy discussion that should be had.
Thank you. Thank you.
Will the community have an opportunity to give input before you implement a new process?
Absolutely. What we're doing right now is frankly acquiring the technology. We need that technology no matter what, because if we start to implement parking meters, which the council has already directed in parts of the community, we need a user-friendly, modern system, frankly, that has the ease of enforcement. And so by moving forward with that, we're going to have the technology, and we can have public comment and engagement around what does a new RPP look like.
Because I know I really struggled to understand our current process when I started implementing this restricted parking, only to find out there were things that we weren't communicating correctly because the city wasn't telling me and I wasn't telling homeowners. So I think that's part of why we failed. And we just gave up.
Thank you. I just want to add, I know there's been some discussion already about the paid parking, and I think there's been a lot of public response to that, and it doesn't sound like it's very positive. The other thing I just want to add is whether or not, and I've had this discussion many times over the years, and pre-Corey, I had many conversations with the former chief of police, and one of the things that I thought could be very simple is just and I've seen it in many cities, is just a matter of putting up no parking signs, no event parking, permit only, violators will be towed or cited or whatever. Use the red stickers that have already been issued, and make it's simple, and take out this whole bureaucratic red tape that just slows everything down. And frankly, for 8 years, I spent trying to get something implemented, and it's just like you're saying now, city manager, it's something that's going to take time, and I don't think it has to be that difficult. It can be something that can be done as simple as putting up a no event parking signs, using the stickers that have already been issued, and make it simple and protect our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Let me.
I just want to make a quick note. One simple thing in Mission Park, which is directly behind the stadium, if they would close that walkway for 3 hours before the game and 2 hours after the game, so only the police can use it in and out, that would eliminate all of our parking problem. That's one thing that you guys could do. And we have said over and over again, and I think Steve agrees with me on this, but nothing's been done.
Sure. Sure. I'm not sure exactly where the walkway is. We can come back to that. If I can just address the additional signage with no event parking, I know that signage and A-frames go up right now. And frankly, what happens, even when we have officers standing there, people go park in the neighborhood, walk right past them. And that is because, as the chief mentioned, we do not have the legal authority to prevent that. And so it is literally a process where we put up signs that say no event parking. And I've been there myself and watched it. People see other people parking there, they go park there, they walk out. And I'll just turn it over to the chief just to talk a little bit more about the limitations of our current process. Even if we put up more signs without it being codified and have an additional policy on the books. And I think people said, for some events, people know what to do, right? They've been coming, they know where to park. And so, Chief, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, and I wish it was that simple, but when we tow a car, as an example, we need a legal authority to tow a car. We need to cite the section in the vehicle code that we're using to tow that vehicle. And in this case, if someone parks on a public street, we have no legal authority to tow the car. So that's what I mean by we have to codify these prohibitions and give that RPP, put that RPP in place. So that's our limiting factor. And that's going to apply to all of the other citations. We have to write what the actual citation is on the ticket. So that's the limiting factor. And so the A-frames, the no event parking, that's really, there's no official parking, and that's why we try to dissuade parking in that area, but there's no teeth behind it, no legal authority. We absolutely have to have a legal authority to block public access on public roadways. As a police chief, I'm not comfortable with directing my folks. There's no legal authority for my people to block access. It's a Fourth Amendment violation. It's illegal search and seizure. I'm not going to speak to that because I didn't make that commitment, and it's certainly not going to happen on my watch. We're not going to violate people's Fourth Amendment to travel freely in the United States of America and access public roadways that don't have any codified legal restrictions on them.
So I just wanted to make a comment. So I do agree with what you said about the A-frames, because I do the walking around the neighborhood to put out the signs with my husband, and we usually lose about 2 signs every game. So they actually run it over. But what makes a very big difference in our neighborhood is the fact that we have police presence, and with them being around and looking at cars as they're parking in our neighborhood, and then they see things that are wrong with the car, no plates, whatever it is. And actually, we thank Ed Carl for being very observant and noticing these things, because word gets out that if you park in Mission Park, you're going to get a ticket for your car for not parking there, but for things. So just police presence in our neighborhood is a big deal. And yes, we would love to close off that little funnel that leads into that back area. And we do understand it is probably very difficult to do that, but we appreciate whatever the police department does to help us. We're just at the point for us, we had a very big community at Mission Park, and a lot of our homeowners were not really into having the football team here. We rallied with Jed York. We hosted him in our neighborhood, and we convinced those homeowners that they're going to take care of us. They understand our problems, and they're going to come here and they're going to take care of us. And unfortunately, we feel like whatever they said did not work out. We love the 49ers. We're 49ers faithful, and we just want to be able to live in a community where we could be able to drive into our neighborhood and not be nervous with people coming to our neighborhood and with all the cars that's taken over the area. I do the final walkthrough in the evening as well with my other board members, and I actually witnessed my board president being harassed by just a drunk person. I couldn't believe it. He threatened to follow her to her house to go do something in front of her house. That's awful. And to see that, and we're not paid employees for our HOA. We're just doing the best for our community, and we shouldn't be frightened to go and protect our neighborhood. So we're just asking for your help to be able to assist us.
So could I explain a little bit more about what was said about that walkway where we are? Because I have a solution. I've tried to bring it up. Again, I'm not here to complain, but I'm here to bring visibility and try to work with you with some solutions. So Officer Artigo and his staff have been so helpful to place CSOs and lights with cars in our back area. The exact location that Debbie Algeri was talking about is the corner of Wilcox and Gianera. They're both public streets. They lead to this path that's emergency vehicle path, and it also happens to be a walkway. During the last Super Bowl, which I worked the Super Bowl, but I also lived there, they closed that emergency access. Again, Wilcox and Gianera. So I know it can be closed. But when I worked, again, solution-wise with traffic and PD, can it be shut off to only emergency vehicles? I could never get anybody say we could shut it down for these 3 hours. And if they were able to, only allow emergency vehicles, meaning a barricade, and all other foot traffic or bike traffic was sent around to Lafayette, that would be half the battle. Because the problem right now in our neighborhood, which is the closest to the stadium, is that little Wilcox and Gianera pathway is the reason why people park and ride share in our neighborhood. If they were to close that to emergency vehicles only, meaning a physical barricade, signage outside, this neighborhood does not allow walk-through traffic to the stadium. Nobody would have any reason to park in our neighborhood. They wouldn't park at Gianera and Wilcox and walk all the way around to Agnew, all the way around to Lafayette. They wouldn't do that. And so I agree with some of this new technology about license plate reader not needing it. I agree with that. But something that has been done at the last Super Bowl that could be investigated is, can we make that pathway only emergency vehicle, guarded and with a barricade? And if they could do that, then we'll take our responsibility with the other license plate readers and signage and having Officer Artigo and his group out there just to say, hey, there's no reason to park back here. Why would you park back in Wilcox and Gianera when you can't walk through that little shortcut along the train to get to the stadium? It just makes so much sense. But when I tried to bring that as a solution, they said they couldn't close it down. I know they can. Last Super Bowl they did.
In reality, if they closed down that walkway by Great America, the amusement park, we wouldn't have a problem. Agnew would be fine. People would not park there. But right now it's bumper to bumper and people are using that walkway. There's a guard there. I didn't think people were supposed to use it to go to the stadium, but they are. So close it down. Close down those two entrances and you solve half of our problem and we become quiet. And we love you guys a lot more.
Hi. The San Tomas Aquino Creek Trail is my commute, and the trail past the stadium is closed during stadium events. So the detour is that pathway that you are describing for through trail traffic. If you have a ticket to the event, you can get into the part of the trail past the stadium. For most events, the Super Bowl is all different. But for somebody like me, I'm actually just going to my office when I take that little pathway on my bike. So, and that's the time that I need it, is when is when events are going on and the main trail is closed past the stadium. So if you've been told that that they can't close that, um, path, that's why. It is the official detour. And there are really good reasons that the official detour isn't Great America Parkway and isn't Lafayette. That traffic there is 40 miles an hour. It's supposed to only be 40 miles an hour. And and I say that because I'm pretty sure that most of it is faster than that. And that's a real uncomfortable place to ride a bicycle, especially when the rest of the time, it's a creek trail and it's separated completely from cars.
So I know why since I work for the 49ers and the trail is closed for security reasons. They don't want some car driving up on sand and leaving a car bomb there. There's a reason why. But the path that leads through our neighborhood can be rerouted one strip. Yes, it's a little inconvenience to you. I agree. But you're one person. We're 500 homes that have this massive number of people thinking that they're going to avoid a $100 parking fee in Red Lot 1 and want to park for free in our neighborhood, urinate in our bushes, litter everywhere, having parties, drunk, throwing up. That's what we deal with. I'm sorry you're inconvenienced to have to drive, go up to maybe Lafayette, but they did it on this last Super Bowl. They closed that path for security reasons. Wilcox and Gianera, so I know it can be done. And it just sends people up instead of that emergency path of Wilcox and Gianera back along the railroad track. Probably you would be sent, the detour would probably be sent up Agnew. I apologize, it's farther, I apologize. You're one person. You'd probably go up to, as a suggestion for traffic, the detour would be rerouted maybe up Agnew to Lafayette, to Tasman, and then over to that area. But they've shut it before. I know they could shut that path, that Wilcox Gianera path. It's just the question is, can they reroute that to another path that is acceptable, but doesn't allow people to park in our neighborhood, ride share our neighborhood? It's just a mess. I mean, I work for the 49ers. I want us to be successful. I work with Karen Hardy to get Jay passed, but this is like a betrayal to me. It's like, come on, we're the closest neighborhood that is most impacted. Yet I have to bite my tongue and say I work at the stadium, but I have to deal with all these people parking in our neighborhood. There are some solutions, and I know Albert had some things about those few that slipped through, but the main thing is if you cut off and put signage out there, there's no reason to park in our area, Mission Park in the area, they won't park. They'll just say, you know what, it isn't worth parking here and then walking all the way around.
So I can speak to a few elements of what's been said. And first off, this is precisely why we're here, is to hear these considerations. Two sides of the coin as well, right? So for Super Bowl and referencing back to 2016, it was designated by the Department of Homeland Security as a Tier 1 event, special event assessment rating, based on the risk of what occurs with everything surrounding a Super Bowl. The perimeter is broader than a traditional NFL event. So indeed, the trail was closed. The access trail at Gianera and Wilcox, it will be closed again for a limited duration of time for the purpose I just described. But those are significant considerations that we are hearing, and there's a number of stakeholders that we need to talk through for those considerations, including back to that coin, the other side of the coin on who's impacted by limited access to their needs, whether it's access to the Capitol Corridor station or the alternative bike route. But we're taking notes, we're listening, we're gonna have the conversations precisely to this on both the Agnew Trail access as well as the Gianera Wilcox. There are other additional neighborhoods as well, though, the Coyote Primaveras, the Fairway Glens. So we need to consider all as well, because they have similar parking concerns in their neighborhoods as well, without that choke point, access point as well. But we're hearing you, we need to communicate with various city partners on what a closure would look like of that access at Gianera Wilcox, as well as resource staffing, how we're checking, et cetera, how we're stopping, preventing, et cetera. But to your points here, on Sergeant Otico's team and Reserve Officer Ed Carl was referenced, we're doing the things that we can do and think will have that dissuade effort, influence effort, such as putting the car with the lights, et cetera. Is it going to stop everyone? It's not, right? But we're taking notes, we're listening, and we'll have these conversations.
Just so it's real clear, if you remember right, I was on the board of the committee against Measure J, and I walked the precincts to talk to people about that. We also did a postmortem after Measure J passed, and we noticed that the closer you lived to the place the stadium was going to go in, less people voted for it in Santa Clara. The further away your house was from it, like down on Stevens Creek, the more likely they were to vote for it. And the things that I was concerned about and walked the precincts, this is the exact problem we're having. And that's why we're here to look at solutions. I want you to understand that when they did put it out for a survey to see if it would pass to do a parking situation, it was in the 20s. It wasn't even close. And so that was the concern, that we shouldn't be forcing something on neighborhoods that didn't want it. There were some people who were very, very clear about not wanting it. And there were some people that felt the other way, but that's why we have that 50+1%. If the council could have a program that we could feel comfortable enforcing on people, then that's what we would do. And I will say, Betsy is now the chair of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, and I was the chair for 6 years. And I have walked a path to keep bicyclists going and away from that, and have worked out. I'm just down to getting Mission College to prove their part. That's the only part that hasn't been done yet. And things move so slowly. And that's so hard for me, because this is one thing I made certain I found something and have shared it with the city manager.
Okay. I think there's one more hand, and then we want to segue to a couple more things that we have planned. One is a brief highlight of a traffic road closure permit that we've received for Super Bowl. And then this is our first meeting, and so we got, I think, appropriately really deep into public comment and a really good dialogue. But we do need to close today with a election of a chair for the subcommittee. And then our future meetings, we have the notes on quality of life issues, litter, trash, walking trails, financials of the stadium, and certainly parking, and then parking again.
Yes, Council Member Hardy, can you please just explain to me the survey that you're referencing about the parking program?
I would have to do that offline. I can't do that right now.
Okay, that's fine. I was just curious about that, just because it sounds like the Lakeshore Mission Peak neighborhood has their unique issues. Fairway Glen has their unique issues related to stadium. Rivermark has their own unique issues to stadium. Montague will have it. We're becoming denser in the north side, so we have Tasman East. We have some other areas coming in around Freedom Circle in the future, as well as around Patrick Henry. So there's a lot of things to think about there. The other thing, I know we're on parking, but Uber of rideshare is also a concern around Lafayette, stopping right along Lafayette to drop off people, pick up people. Same thing in the neighborhoods. I call it, we're like a neighborhood airport terminal, right? So trying to find solutions as well to reduce access to our neighborhoods to prevent that.
Perfect. And when I was just gonna say, and when we bring back rideshare, we'll talk about Waymo and other autonomous vehicle transportation. And then the other thing, based on comments I want to add, is communication, how you receive information and how the stadium provides information to the broader community. Okay, with that, let us go through a few more slides, and then we'll again take a round of public comment before we end.
So thank you to City Manager Javon. We are segueing perfectly into the updates regarding Super Bowl LX and the traffic impacts, including the road closures for the Super Bowl. As Captain Fitting mentioned, with Super Bowl, it is a different caliber event. And so the perimeter, the safety perimeter is different than a regular stadium event. We have there's going to be different phases starting January 5th to the day of Super Bowl and a few days after to address the traffic needs of the Super Bowl.
And if I can, you are the first group to publicly see this. The city on December 5th received the first in a series of permit submittals from the NFL. And so we are currently reviewing those, but because we were having this meeting, we wanted to just present you what's been provided to us. And of course, there's been a number of meetings with all the various public safety agencies, but we absolutely, we will.
Yes, I will. So it's Lafayette right here. And I'll just bring my mic. This is Tasman. And then Stars and Stripes that goes all the way to Great America. This is the road around the youth soccer park. So I hope that. So this is going to be the first impacted road closure. This is going to be starting January 5th.
So the proposal here is, if many of you remember the Super Bowl 10 years ago and the large compounds that were built around the Super Bowl, then it's actually larger now. And so their setup starts a little bit over a month out. And there will be significant heavy vehicle traffic coming in on Stars and Stripes to begin that build out. Now, what the NFL has secured is a temporary train station lot in Tasman East, which is shown right up there. And so there will be ADA transport to that station. Many of you that are familiar with that Great America station will know that there are a number of shuttle buses that arrive there, oftentimes for people that aren't utilizing the train station at all. It's just a shuttle bus pickup and drop off. And so those shuttle operations will move to that satellite lot. And there will be ADA transportation to that lot from Lafayette. And so we're currently reviewing that plan, but as we said, there's a series of closures that are proposed. This is the phase one. And I do know that VTA, Capital Corridor, Caltrain has been notified, and they are planning their public outreach to their constituencies. I actually think to kick off later at the end of this week and over the 2-week holiday period.
Is that Agnew? Right here? Yeah. Let's do it generic. Lafayette, so.
I can zoom in.
Lafayette is not closed, only Stars and Stripes is. Yes, to Wilcox, to that one area that you guys were mentioning,
So
the trail, yeah.
That's noticing the closure of the
So-
trail that we were just talking about that leads from Gianera and goes to the train station, right? That alternative trail. And so for that period, the plan is to relocate the bike lane onto Lafayette. And so starting January 5th, that trail will close. And so not Lafayette, correction, just that trail.
What am I missing?
Right. So again, the proposed January 5th closures are to close the trailhead that is at Gianera, as well as Stars and Stripes, and then the interior street in between the 49ers training facility and the youth soccer park, as well as Maria de Bartolo Way. And the slip lane, which we call the slip lane on Tasman, that lane that goes down toward the train station. And so Tasman will remain open, as well as Lafayette, as well as Great America Parkway during this phase.
So the, what's your,
I think.
So Tasman's going to remain open. So this little portion is that road that takes you from Tasman to Stars and Stripes.
what you have marked as Tasman East is basically Tasman and Lick Mill area, correct?
Are you talking about the train station lot?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Yes. Will the River Trail,
Not affected, not affected, not affected. There, I don't want to say that it would be safer, but what I would say is that the path of travel and where that bike trail goes to, I don't think you can get there from Lafayette. I know that our Public Works Department studied a rerouting of the trail. And
through Rancho Ulistac.
sure. And so what I will say is that we will take that under advisement. And I know our Public Works Department had a meeting also with the BPAC committee. And we'll take that under advisement.
Yeah.
Right now, the proposal is to use Lafayette.
Yeah, I can say that route because I've used it many times. Okay.
If I remember right, at the last Super Bowl that was here, along Lafayette was a series of school buses that were transporting workers for the event. And I walked the river trail and then over to Lafayette and then down at the.
Oh, the microphone, sorry. So people.
And, there was no traffic other than the school buses. And my memory says that the Lafayette was closed at the last.
So that's phase one. There's a couple more phases that we're going to share information with you regarding road closures. So if there's no more questions on phase one, we'll go to phase two.
Yes.
Yes. So yes, we will. And we'll have that information for you guys on the website as well. And I'll share where to look for it on the website.
And again, these are permits that have been submitted. Because we're meeting today, we know today was not about the Super Bowl, but we thought in all transparency, it would be appropriate to give a highlight here. There's an entire communications plan that involves the NFL, the Bay Area Host Committee, as well as our city communications team that will be putting out information to the community. So know that this is not the only venue that you'll receive this. So phase two, starting January 28th, Tasman will close through traffic between Great America Parkway and Calle de Sol. Bike and vehicle traffic will be detoured around the closure. And the Santa Masakino Creek Trail will also close from January 29th through February 10th with detours provided. And so that's where you see the yellow street. That's the creek trail. That is the creek trail that goes directly in front of the stadium. And so that will close on January 28th and remain closed through February 10th. And so, starting at, I believe, Agnew to Great America Parkway. And then there is a period 3. I'm sorry. Yes, and Tasman Drive will close. Right around at the start at the entrance to the convention center, all the way on the south side, the entire direction, and there will be what's called bi-directional traffic to the yellow lot 1 garage, which will be used during this period for parking. And so if you have credentials to utilize that garage, you will be able to turn either from Great America Parkway or continue on to Tasman Drive to the Yellow Lot 1 garage. But beginning on January 28th, Tasman Drive will be closed.
So I'm wondering for phases 1 and 2, since this affects commute traffic, I work a bit north of Stars and Stripes off of Great America Parkway. And I'm wondering particularly what the transit access is going to be, because I have coworkers who take the trains to get to there. And I'm also concerned when I hear you say that the official detour is Lafayette, because that's not the way I'm going. I think you will have some trail traffic. You should expect to have some of what would otherwise be on the trail on Great America Parkway as well. I was doing this same commute 10 years ago during the first Super Bowl that we hosted, and the regular event detour I'd give kind of a B+. This is really tough to have this much closed for a week. You're taking bike traffic that is used to riding without cars at all and putting it on these big arterials. The trail closed in 2016 and the detour closed in 2016. It was a slightly different detour. And I turned the corner onto Great America Parkway and I was greeted by an event sign that blocked the entire bike lane. And my choice is, at that point, is, go around it on the sidewalk, which isn't really a great idea. It's technically not legal in Santa Clara, or share a lane with car traffic that's supposed to only be going 40 miles an hour. So please, when you're doing this plan, think about commute traffic, because this is most of I think most of a month for part of it. And think of the trail as transportation as well as recreation. You are not just rearranging somebody's jogging route. And please, if you possibly can, on Lafayette, if Lafayette and Great America Parkway are going to be the choices, which looks to me like they are, please, at the very minimum, keep the bike lanes clear of event signs and construction. And if you possibly can, please create a temporary protected bike lane with traffic cones.
Thank you for your comment. Know that I personally attended one of the early meetings around potential closure of the Creek Trail, and a lot of conversation was dedicated to commuter traffic and a recognition that it's not just exercise. And so certainly, as we review these permits, and I think that the chief or Captain Fitting mentioned the Tier 1 nature of the event, I think what we all realized was there is no perfect solution, and many different users will be impacted, and the layered security approach, but then also recognizing that at some point, some really hard closures need to be done, so that appropriate security sweeps and clearances can occur and be maintained. And then last is on game day. So that adds a few additional closures along Great America Parkway. So Great America Parkway will be closed between Bunker Hill Lane and Patrick Henry Drive. Other closures to support Super Bowl activities include Old Ironsides, Old Glory Lane, and there'll be detours for impacted cars and vehicles. And so some of those red lines are actually in the middle of Red Lot 1. And the businesses there, the hotels will be open and they'll be facilitated traffic and ingress and egress to those. But certainly on game day, additional closures around that area will be necessary and will have to be maintained. Okay. With that, I will turn it back to, oh, we have special event ordinance.
Yes. So real quick, I know that we're getting close to our 5 o'clock end period, but and want to be respectful of everyone's time. The other element that we are undertaking for Super Bowl LX is a special event zone. It's a temporary and event specific, and it's not permanent, does not change city rules year round. The goal is to manage very large crowds safely while protecting residents, businesses, and emergency access. Similar approaches are used by cities nationwide when hosting global events of this size. The ordinance creates clear, predictable rules during Super Bowl week so everyone knows what to expect. It focuses on public safety, keeping streets and sidewalks clear, emergency access for police, fire, and medical services, public health, and consumer protection, such as preventing unsafe food sales. The ordinance applies only during Super Bowl operations from February 1st through February 10th, 2026. Outside of that time period, normal city rules will apply. The zone map is on actual event operations. It reflects expected crowd movement routes, emergency and security perimeters, transportation, staging, and loading areas. And once again, this map only applies while the zone is activated, which is going to be February 1st to February 10th. The ordinance includes 6 targeted rules, all focused on preventing congestion and safety hazards. These rules mainly address pop-up or unpermitted activity, not normal business. This includes pausing sidewalk vending permits only inside the zone, preventing unpermitted outdoor food or merchandise sales, prohibiting vending or advertising from vehicles or carts, managing giveaways that could create crowding, requiring permits for temporary tents or structures on non-residential properties. Existing permitted businesses can continue their normal operations, and outside the zone, existing city laws still apply as normal. The city is taking an education-first approach, not a punitive one. Before the zone is active, businesses and vendors are being notified directly. Information is shared through a dedicated webpage, emails, and social media. Outreach includes multilingual materials, in-person engagement. Enforcement will be led by code enforcement with police support when needed. The goal is to voluntary compliance with penalties used only when necessary for safety. The city wants residents and businesses to feel informed, prepared, and supported. How to stay informed. So there's various ways that we, on our website, that we have information about all things stadium related. So we have a website dedicated to the subcommittee, and so you guys will be able to sign up, subscribe for notifications. There's also a website specific to the special event zone. So if you want more information specifically about the new ordinance and how that's going to impact business within the zone. Stadium information, that's also, you can get notifications on Nixle and I think Nextdoor on get that information from that website. And then the email, Stadium Relations, if you have any questions or want updates on to what's going on. And once again, on the Stadium Relations, you can sign up for email notifications. I know some of you had mentioned you do get some of your information from social media, so Santa Clara PD or Santa Clara City, or also Levi Stadium post information about upcoming stadium events. And this is just an example of the one for this past Sunday's game of what our police department posts for the community. Next step, so as City Manager Grogan mentioned, there's a couple topics that were brought up from today's meeting. We will be presenting that at the next committee or subcommittee meeting that is going to be end of February, early March. The committee does not have a designated time or date. We really wanted to be flexible with the committee members to try to engage as many committee or residents or stakeholders within the boundary map to participate in these events. So we'll look at a different time and date for the next meeting. And as I mentioned earlier, we do appreciate it. An earlier meeting today with the holidays, it was a really limited timing. So that concludes the presentation, and I'll turn it over to City Manager.
I think we've been quick question, and then I want to make sure that we allow the committee to elect a chair.
Just a quick question. Do you anticipate the FIFA World Cup games across 2 weeks to be the same level of security as a Super Bowl or more like a regular event?
Ooh, that's a PD question.
We've been working together, sir, long enough. You could answer that one. Yeah, I got it. So I referenced it, but every operation we conduct, whether we're developing the plans or implementing them, is based on a risk threat assessment. So with our nations, of our first 5 matches, somewhat known or known with the exception of one based on a qualifier, that risk assessment is happening now as we speak, and that'll move forward. So it's going to be determined by the nations, and other factors that are determined. But in short answer, potentially yes, perhaps more so. In particular, depending on our 6th match, which is a round of 32. So to be determined, but we do look forward to the opportunity to stand up a major event for this region, for this community, such as Super Bowl 60, to ready ourselves for FIFA World Cup. And I didn't mention it at the outstart, but this team here, myself included, we're leading the public safety planning for our 6 FIFA World Cup matches. And I'll add one more note. We have a committee structure, various working groups, focus areas related to that public safety need. And in 2016, we did not have one particular bucket. This team here decided to add a bucket, and it's community safety. And we had the chair of that bucket be Sergeant RJ Otico.
Okay, so committee, would anyone like to nominate a chair?
I'll nominate Albert.
I'll second.
Oh, simple. All right,
That's easy.
that's easy. Yeah, why don't we have a quick vote of the committee?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, very simple formal portion of our program. Okay, so, vice chairs.
Would like to nominate Karen Hardy to be vice chair.
I'll second.
I'll accept.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, so our very next meeting, we will take from the comments that we heard today, certainly additional information on parking and a residential parking program. We'll provide an overview of the stadium structure and financials, both prior benefit to the city as well as ongoing projected annual benefit. As well as we'll talk a little bit about the Stadium Authority as a business and how it's paying off its debt and just do a little dive there. Other issues that were mentioned, trails, ride share, quality of life, litter, trash, and communication. And so in order to do everything justice, probably can't handle all of those in one meeting, but we will certainly address those in our meetings. And then I think the last thing we need to do, and then, yes, we do have a chair, and so we should turn it over to our chair for public comment.
Chair, I have a comment at the end.
Sure. Is there anybody else, any comments or input from the public? Any other questions or things that you may want to see addressed that our city manager has not already mentioned?
I just wanted to add one thing that I have noticed through living through a Super Bowl is Santa Clara doesn't have any amenities to keep people in the city so we can make money. What I see is we have hotels, we have places for food, but everyone goes to San Francisco or San Jose. What are you guys going to do to keep people in Santa Clara so we make more money?
Just so you know, we talked about a geo fence, but yeah, no,
I think Albert, our chair, is on the Economic Development Committee, so they're actively working on that.
There's working on events and things, and I know our Assistant City Manager, Paulina Morales, is looking at that as well. Yes.
Yeah.
The 49ers Stadium lights are kept on all night. There's very few events that are held at night, and it creates a lot of light pollution. And those lights are not used for security, so why are they kept on all night?
We'll take note of that and
Yeah.
bring that back.
Or just one more comment I had regarding our Fairy Glen Park. It's a really small neighborhood park. We've had on 2 occasions, massive amount of people come from different places hosting parties there. The entire park was filled with people. On one occasion, there were people coming from, they were a fan base from Southern California. And there was a CSO on site, and I felt bad for him and scared for him at the same time. I think multiple members of the neighborhood had called in about it with open alcohol and so forth. And so that's also another thing that we wanted to have addressed is the protection of our neighborhood parks.
Thank you. Anyone?
The other gentleman mentioned light pollution. The light pollution and the litter both have impacts on the creek, and the creek at that point is a riparian corridor and a place where wildlife live. And so I hope we will work on doing better by our natural environment.
Anyone else? I'll go to council now.
Yeah, I have been asking for this committee for 3 years now. Every year I've put in a recommendation. I'm really appreciative that everyone showed up here. This is a lot more people than we get for the university committees. And I think what I've learned a lot about the issues that, you know, you all are facing here in this area. But, you know, the issues, solving these issues is not simple. You know, first I thought, well, we'll just close the walkway to Mission Park, but I'm a bicycle rider and I didn't quite realize that that was the walkway that I ride my bike on. So all of these issues are complicated. Getting a permit parking program, there's different ways to implement that. We're here to listen to you. We want to understand all the nuances before we make any decisions if the council has to unilaterally decide to implement a permit parking. But I appreciate that all of you came out.
And thank you for showing up. Definitely your input and your comments and questions, suggestions are being taken into account. And we do have a wealth of knowledge now over 12 years as far as having the stadium open. So we do plan on doing things, I think, rather sooner than later. And I know our city manager is looking at different technical and innovative measures as far as parking. We don't want to impose anything. We want to have your input, but definitely I think something has to happen. And, you know, me as your District 1 representative is going to make sure that we get votes on things to make sure that we can get things done sooner rather than later. And with that,
Adjourn.
we're going to adjourn at
Thank you.
5:02.